It's your boy, Christopher Rennie here, bringing you another episode of the Chris Rennie Show on this fine Thursday morning. Today we are going to be talking about the MLB playoffs. They are in full swing. We're in the divisional series, and I'm going to not only dive into the series so far a little bit, but we're going to get deep into what storylines would be the best for the sport of baseball and how I'm going to follow it the rest of the way with my team being eliminated. The next thing we'll get into today, the next topic, is the hero effect and how the rising star in the league might not be the benefactor much of NBA Twitter seems to be making of them, as well as why the Lakers are going to close out the series tonight. Lastly, the Titans, the NFL coronavirus, and why the way it's been handled is hurting my fantasy team more than it's hurting the Tennessee Titans. All that today and a little bit more. Before the show starts, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisRennieCFB, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show, The Chris Rennie Show, on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you choose to listen to your podcast. Give me a nice little rating below because it helps me, and that's the only reason, honestly. Just do it. Do it. It's now. All right, but besides that, enjoy the show today. Hopefully you guys like it. I can't do this anymore. What's this guy saying? Who gave these national radio hosts these jobs? Jeez. Can't even understand that guy. What's he even talking about? I can't take it anymore. Those national media personalities making you feel like that, make a change. Listen to this idiot about the sports that matter from the opinion that matters. Haha, you said it, not me. Now for today's takes from the most opinionated host in sports talk. Welcome in, everybody. It is your host, Christopher Rennie, and we're having another fine Thursday. Still in the sports trifecta. It used to be the quadfecta, and even more, honestly, with college football, professional soccer coming back. But realistically, in America, we've got the MLB still going. We've got the playoffs in full swing. That's a baseball pun. And we've got the NBA Finals, which I would bet would probably be ending tonight. If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on the Lakers, take the safe bet, and just close it out and trust LeBron's greatness once again. He and the Lakers are probably going to come out and understand that the longer you let a fly keep flying around, the more they feel welcomed in the home, and the more they're going to stay and interrupt your daily life, leading to that level of annoyance to where you start breaking stuff. Before we get into the NBA Finals, I just want to talk about the MLB playoffs. They are going, and to say the least, they've lacked us excitement for the most part. A lot of sweeps, a lot of the better team winning quickly. But there are two series that are pretty exciting. We're really rooting for one team. I'm excited to see what the Rays can do. I'm excited to see what the A's can do. And then the Dodgers went up 2-0 yesterday. And the Braves went up 2-0 as well. So those series, I'm just going to bank on the Dodgers' experience. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, I thought the Padres' game plan in Game 1 was a little hard to identify. They threw out Mike Clevenger, the former Indians pitcher. He's a really, really great pitcher. He was a solid number 2 behind Shane Bieber, number 1 in honestly any other rotation. But he just did not look healthy in Game 1. So waltzing out sunshine was not the strongest move, and you kind of use up your bullpen in game one just to give a pitcher who might or might not be healthy a chance to try to take that game. It seemed a little irresponsible to me, number one. And number two, it just did not seem like the most intelligent decision the Padres could have made going into game one, especially with the shortened playoffs, the lack of off days. You really cannot be stretching your bullpen that thin, especially when you're playing a team like the Dodgers, who leads off with Mookie Betts, has Corey Seager, a power-hitting shortstop, Justin Turner, one of the best hitters in the game. Formerly, he's getting a little older now. Max Muncy, who could always send one over the fence and into the bay. And then Cody Bellinger. You just have a loaded lineup, and it just doesn't make sense to make the decision they did. Kershaw, 6 strong, 3 earned, 6 strikeouts. Didn't really do much to silence the critics, but he did do what he doesn't usually do. And he went out there and he pitched a solid game, got the win. And I think older Kershaw is starting to get better at that when his stuff isn't dominant, grinding out those innings, grinding out those pitches that you need to make, and just sort of living with what happens and moving on from it, rather than when his unhittable stuff gets hit, kind of shelling up and falling apart. So if they get that, Clayton Kershaw, along with the Walker Buehler we saw, hopefully he could extend his innings, Buehler, but we're seeing a very great baseball team. Unfortunately, on the other side, some of the youngest talent in the game, some of my favorite players coming up, Tatis. I love Manny Machado. I really do enjoy watching Eric Hosmer as well, now that he's not killing me when he's on the Royals. Will Myers, also a really good, solid player. And then they had that outfielder, the young outfielder who was up for the Rookie of the Year. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but that's all right. There's a lot of baseball players in the world, so you're going to forget some. But the Padres themselves, they're down 0-2, find themselves in a hole. I think the Dodgers have learned their lesson from the past, and it's sort of similar with what I opened with. The longer you let the Padres hang around, it's asking for trouble, especially in a game of baseball where if a team gets hot and the other team goes cold at the same time, it happens. It happens pretty frequently, and the 2-game series is over. We're moving on to a 3-game series for the Dodgers, and they have to go 1-2. They can do that pretty easily. But the Padres have to win 3 straight, so their level of urgency might be a little higher than the Dodgers. That's where a team like the Dodgers has fallen off in the past. Have they learned their lesson? Maybe. Now, in the Rays-Yankees series, the Rays getting that lead was so crucial. I think now you can send your next pitcher out with some confidence. The bats are working. I think when you watch the Rays today, it's going to be a very good performance from them. I would bet very, very safely, though, because the Yankees are hitting extremely well. Did you see that home run Giancarlo hit last night? He is absolutely destroying baseballs. I'd say of the 2-1s, I'd say the Yankees have a better chance than the A's. The guy's down 1-2, but, it's the MLB playoffs. We've all seen those 3-1 leads evaporate. Here it's these 2-1 leads. They evaporate even quicker. So, the Yankees win, and tomorrow it's an even game going in. And if it's an even game, I'm taking the Yankees, as unfortunate as that would be. That's just the truth, and we all understand it. So what I really wanted to get into, because really baseball is about the overarching storylines of the postseason, of the regular season, and taking all that into consideration. The storylines are really what decides on the greatness of a team. Those Yankees with Jeter, they were all about the storyline. You had the glove flip against the A's. You had all these great moments. Mr. November, The Cubs ending the 103-year streak. Oh, my God, what a big deal. F those guys for doing that. But the stories really are what truly defines baseball. It's how it's been since 1856, the day it started. They are truly the only sport that relies on that. The basketball, the NBA very much does rely on narrative, but a little different. It's fan-driven narrative more so than writer-driven narrative. And I think following the storylines is exactly how you sort of end up knowing the most about baseball. The storylines for all these teams, are different. And some of them are positive and some of them are very, very negative. So I'm going to go through the AL first because I think they're pretty easy, straightforward storylines. It'll be a quick hitter. But the NL gets a little bit more complicated to me, I think, with who I'd want to come out in the NL. It's a little different. Very similar teams, very similar. But in the AL, you do have a true dichotomy. Okay, the A's, the Astros, and the Rays are all not known as big spenders. They are known as the low market teams. They are the small school, the teams that barely make enough money. We all saw the movie Moneyball when David Justice leaves the Yankees to go to the A's to finish out his career, and he goes to the vending machine and the one guy's putting quarters in. He's like, "You guys got to pay for that stuff?" And I'm pretty sure the guy responds and comments, "We got to pay for everything." So, with that segue, we're going to start with the A's. The A's are not only playing the MLB's redheaded stepchild, the MLB's devil, the team that no one respects. The A's, who have avoided every single punishment besides Joe Kelly throwing at some of their players. Besides that, the Astros got off pretty scot-free. But you know what? The A's are coming off. They're hot. They won their first playoff series under the Bean administration. They won their first game in the ALCS against the Astros. So they're getting hot. I really do believe the A's are a team that gets hot, and they are a team that can win when they are. What this story would mean for baseball is bigger than everything, and it just is one of those moments where everything that Billy Beane and that whole A's organization, including Dave Podesta and the people who came after them, it worked. It finally paid off. And, it's been proven to work over the 162 games. You play mathematics, you play averages, and most of the time, the standard deviation of wins works out. You're either 10 to 12 games below 500, 10 to 12 games above 500, and sometimes you're a little bit further out among that if you hit on a prospect or hit on a star. But it comes to the playoffs, and when it comes to the playoffs, it's the money you spent on the big-time players who make those big-time plays in the big-time moments. The guys, you really can't fathom having a team without, it's why the victory for the Nationals was so cathartic for Washington. Bryce Harper leaves them. He doesn't think the Washington Nationals can ever win anything, at least not with him there. And he goes to Philadelphia thinking that with their money, their ability to spend is going to make a much better, consistent playoff contender. Well, he may be right in the long run, but for now, the Washington Nationals bet on the guys they had, and they came away as champions last year. Now, this year did not do them any favors in that evaluation for the future moving forward. But they got their World Series, and that's what the sport's about, winning the championship when your team is maximized. And the A's, I couldn't tell you more than like 3 players on their roster, and that's not because they're bad. It's because it's a team that doesn't have many star players. They really, truly do not, and it's just one of those things where they're never going to have those types of players. I'd be very optimistic for them going into Game 4. When you look at the recap, they came back. They were down. Those were games they hadn't won prior. And they came back and beat them. So, guys like Marcus Semien, their shortstop, he and others very much made the difference yesterday. And I don't really know these guys, man. Steven Biscotti's a name I know. I'm pretty sure that's Max Olson. Chris Davis, their DH, 0 for 5. Wow, that's their star player. But it truly and most importantly proves one thing. And I know the Astros, they're getting hot. It's great for them. I love Michael Brantley. He's been a very critical player for them since the postseason has started. I've really liked the way he's played. But outside of that, I hate Correa. I hate Gurriel. I hate Altuve. I hate Alex Bregman. They are all SOBs. But that takes me into the next storyline I'm going to talk about, the Astros. So we're going to stay game to game here. The Astros winning the World Series this year would be the worst thing to happen to baseball. The fans would, oh my God. It's, as a person who roots for chaos often, and I just love when things do not go right, I'm not even rooting for this one. The Astros winning would literally destroy the MLB, I think. And I'm not even being dramatic. I really think fans would revolt. Most fans didn't want the Astros playing this year. Most fans didn't want the Astros eligible for the postseason. So the fact that they slip in by the skin of their teeth, go on, win the first round in the wild card series, and then move forward to beat baseball's darling, the Moneyball Billy Bean A's. And now they'd have to go through either the Yankees or Rays. If they go through the Yankees, you're going to have the two most hated franchises in the sports going at each other. Everyone's rooting for the National League in that scenario. But if they beat the A's and the Rays, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt us fans for sure. So I hate the Astros. What the Astros did with their cheating is worse than the steroid era. Because at least in the steroid era, it's proven that a high percentage of players were doing it, even if they never admitted it. It's very obvious that most people in the era were shooting up steroids. All right, so I can, as a young person evaluating that past era, it's like, all right, if everyone was doing it, let's treat them all as equals. The Astros and Red Sox were the only two teams to do it, with that little snake, Alex Cora, who's actually up for another job. So that bothers me a lot, personally. And it should bother you on the other side as well, that Alex Cora is being interviewed and going through the processes for more jobs, even though he cheated baseball. He cheated the integrity of the game, and so did the Astros organization, and that is just so upsetting to me. And then on top of that, they're still in position to continue winning and win a World Series. And they lost their best pitcher. Absolutely, without a doubt, the Astros winning the World Series is the worst storyline, period. So I already talked about the A's, and the Rays are very similar. I think the Rays, they are a little bit higher on the payroll side than the A's. I think they really would be in the same, but the Rays are willing to spend a little bit more money, whatever that's saying about the Tampa Bay Rays. It's really not that much more. They're two of the lowest payroll teams in the league. So, it's they're kind of like the East Coast, West Coast. They're like twins in a way. But right now, I think the Rays have a little bit more young talent. You got Austin Meadows. You got Austin Meadows. Choi Ji-man's been a good player. Yoshitomo Susugo was not great last night, but he's had his moments. And then I guess Joey Wendell's a star now. So, all that considered, if the Rays did it, the Rays have been around for a little bit. They've been knocking on this door the last 15 years. What are the Rays capable of this postseason? We're finding out. They can hit the ball. If Snell can pitch any better than he did, they have a true ace in the sport. And I think I just really believe the Rays are my pick right now to win the World Series. I know they just went up 2-1. I know they're riding high right now. I know Tampa Bay sports is riding on a very high note right now. I just think if there's a team of destiny for this weird pandemic, Tampa Bay, a place I don't know much about, seems like an interesting place. The one Tampa Bay sports fan I follow on Twitter is a very interesting guy, and it seems to be the case that most Tampa Bay fans are on the interesting side. So I think the Rays winning would not be the most exciting story for baseball. I think that would fall on probably the Padres and the Braves, the heavy-hitting youths. But they would be a fun one, and they're not one I'm mad about. I think they are constructed really well. I think they have a very strong bullpen. I think they have really good starting pitching, and I think they have the bats to keep up with anybody in the league. So I think when you look top to bottom, it's a weird year, so that kind of takes me out of picking a favorite, a traditional favorite like the Yankees or the Dodgers. And you know what? I'm gonna roll the ball towards the Rays here. What would this story mean for baseball? I think it would be a little less of a proof that you don't need money to win than the A's, which is a little less exciting. But I think when you talk about investing into the team, investing into the farm system, investing into the players you have, it proves that you could win that way. It's very similar to the Miami Heat in the NBA, and I don't think the Heat are going to win tonight, but the Rays are going to. And I think realistically, moving forward, I think the Rays are the team I'm going to pull for, so that's pretty much signing their death note. But all in all, I just think they're the most even story. I don't think anyone would be mad if the Rays won. Maybe Yankees fans, I guess. Maybe Red Sox fans. But outside of those two who are just salty fan bases anyways. Oh, and whoever they beat in the World Series. But that's obvious. That would be, I think they'd be the safest team to win for Major League Baseball. Now moving on to the NL. All right, so we've got 4 more teams to get through, and then I'm getting into the NBA Finals. All right, so the NL is a little less interesting. Both those games are 2-0 right now. The Dodgers up 2-0 on the Padres. The Braves up 2-0 on the Marlins. I wouldn't be surprised if both those got closed out today. I think the Marlins are reeling a little bit. I think the Dodgers know what the Padres are capable of, and they want to put them down as soon as possible. So, number one, we're gonna start bottom here to top. I think we're gonna start with the teams that are down. All right, so the Marlins, they coming into the postseason never lost a playoff series. They get there and they win. That's the Marlins' MO. Will that continue? It's not looking good. It's looking very bleak, actually. The Marlins are a team similar to their Florida counterpart. You really couldn't name a player on them if you had to pick out any real. Honestly, I just don't know anybody on the Marlins personally. I follow baseball pretty religiously. When you look at their roster, you've got Sandy Alcantara. He's like a very good pitcher, actually. Now that I've seen the name, you got Garrett Cooper, who my boss knows. You've got Brian Anderson, who's been good, I think. See, Corey Dickerson, I know that name. That's a name I know. Matt Joyce, I know that name. Okay, all right. We got some oldies but goldies there. See, the Marlins are obscure. That's what they're known for. They are an obscure franchise. Remember when they put the fish tank in to their stadium behind home plate? They're obscure. The Marlins winning the championship, every single time they've done it, has been obscure. So, what would it be in 2020 if they came back 0-2 against the Dodgers, or 0-2 against the Braves, and ended up beating the Dodgers or Padres, and won the World Series against either of those 4 teams that are still vying for the spot? It would be obscure, honestly. I read the names. They're not household. They're very much analytic guy names. A guy who'd follow baseball truly religiously. Wakes up in the morning, reads the morning box scores from every game, looks at every player, starts noticing the trends. That's not me. I'm a baseball fan. I'm not a baseball follower. So, yes, the Marlins would be very obscure. Now, the Padres, they are struggling against the Dodgers. Not to hit the ball. They are hitting quite fine, but their pitching staff, like I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, they kind of screwed them over, the management there, with going with Clevenger. He had to use like 8 more pitchers, something stupid like that, and they barely got out of there. They honestly almost won, but I think when you talk reality and talk about what that's going to do the rest of the series, it just wasn't the smartest decision. But if the Padres end up coming back and beating the Dodgers, not only did they beat Big Brother, the Dodgers, who've been the Big Brother since the Dodgers left Brooklyn, moved out to the CA, became one of the beauty franchises in sports. They're in LA. You've got the great skyline. You've got all that stuff at Dodger Stadium. It's just one of those places that really puts into perspective how great sports can be. And yeah, so getting over the Dodgers would be monumental for this Padres, this young team that's really starting to throw money at players. Like Manny Machado's contract, for example. Fernando Tatis is very, very non-traditional. Bat flips, home runs, going through take signs. The whole 9 yards you want from your modern baseball player that's going to be a great ambassador to the sport for young kids who want to get in and have fun. That's what it's all about, honestly. So, the Padres, I don't think they're going to win. I really don't. So, we're going to move on. The Braves, the heavy hitters, they're the true young guns with Ronald Acuna and the gang. So, they are playing at an extremely high level, and it's just been what they've been known for. They went and won 2-0 against the Marlins yesterday. Dansby Swanson hit a home run. Travis d'Arnaud hit another home run. So they really just proved last night that they've got enough pitching to get the job done. They've got plenty of hitting. Nick Markakis, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, Ozzie Albies, Travis d'Arnaud, Marcell Ozuna, Freddie Freeman, and Ronald Acuna Jr. All those guys are absolute mashers of the baseball. It's really going to come down to their hitters hitting the ball deep and far against the better teams, and I think they're very capable of it. I think that's what a lot of people thought the Padres were going to be able to do against the Dodgers, but I think the Braves are the better version of the Padres right now. I think when you look at the veteran the Padres have in Manny Machado, he's not as steady as Freddie Freeman on the Braves. And if the Braves won, I think you think back to the Ted Turner Braves, the Chipper Jones Braves. You think back to all those teams in Atlanta that were so good, but just didn't get the job done. They had their 4 horsemen, the pitchers that were just all elite. And this Braves team's kind of the opposite of that. They are power-hitting guys with lesser-known names at pitchers, and they are driving the modern swing plane era of baseball forward more than any other team I've seen this year. So that takes me into the final team I'm going to talk about, the Dodgers. They've been so close. No cigars, no champagne yet. They've been the dominant force from the beginning of the season until now. Oh, wait, that's just like every other year. So the Dodgers need to finally just punch it in, man. The time clock's ticking. They keep spending big money. They keep rubbing prospects the wrong way, bringing in guys like Mookie Betts. They are not the same as they used to be, that is for sure. They spend big-time money to make this possible. The difference between the Dodgers and the Yankees in that scenario, though, is the Yankees are the notoriously big spenders, and they finally have a team that is all homegrown. Now, the Dodgers, granted, with Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, have a good mix of that as well. They really, to me, they're so good. They are so fun. Will they choke again? Will they not? That's the best storyline. Will the Dodgers finally do it? We'll see. I don't know what it's going to mean for baseball. I think they're just like every other top 5 payroll team in the league. It's going to be cool for Dodgers fans. I think that's about it. I think for the rest of the league, it's not really that great movie storyline. And that is going to be the storylines that drive the league. I think the MLB playoffs have been fun. I think they should move to 16 teams for sure. I think realistically that has been the most fun I've had watching baseball in a while, was that AL Wild Card Series where we had baseball on from the time I got into work at like 10 a.m. until the night was over. I think that's what sports is all about. And when you look at March Madness and the success of it, you look at the first round of the NBA playoffs with those 16 teams, you look at the NFL wildcard weekend and then the divisional rounds. The more teams, the better. The more games, the better. It's just a lot of fun. And I think that would be baseball doing it right going forward. I think the change needs to be good. And I know not all baseball writers agree, but the one thing I saw was everyone was like, oh my God, the 3-game series makes no sense. The 3-game series makes no sense. The 1-game series doesn't make any sense. The 3-game series is how baseball is played almost all year long. How does that not make sense? It would honestly make the most sense of any of them. So yes, I'm pro 3-game series. I'm pro wild card series. I'm pro 16-team MLB playoffs. Let's give more teams a chance. Yes, that's going to piss off the people at the top, but that gives us more chance for teams like the A's, teams like the Astros, the enemy of the sport, to come in and have a chance to really just destroy everything that we love. And that's what it's all about. That's what sports should be about. So moving forward, the NBA Finals are probably going to close out tonight. I think LeBron is truly finally going to turn it into high gear for this last game, probably these last couple games. So far it's been back and forth. The Heat's defense has driven them to a victory, but for the most part, the Lakers have done enough offensively with their 2 stars in LeBron and AD, and gotten enough help from around him, as well as having that great team D you expect from a Frank Vogel team. So there's been no surprises this series. But the one surprise to me, and it honestly didn't come as a surprise to me when I started seeing it, but it's a trend I saw. Tyler Herro has been treated like the greatest budding star, the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's a 20-year-old. He got his start in the NBA Finals. He's been a great 2-guard, 3-guard all year. He's an awesome wing player. He's hits those shots you wouldn't even dream about taking on a consistent basis. He's first team. Oh no. Oh yeah. He is. He truly is. But when it comes to the most important stat in the sport, when it comes to evaluating the difference a player makes, The plus minus, yes, it's traditional. It might be archaic. It is a team-driven stat. But when I played basketball, if I had a positive plus minus, I knew I had a successful day being a player off the bench. I know when you lose games and you're a starter, you tend to have a negative plus minus. But when you look at guys like Jimmy Butler, when you look at guys like Duncan Robinson, when you look at guys like Andre Iguodala, who play a lot of minutes, their plus minus didn't come near this territory for the series. And I think that says a lot about what has happened on the floor. Now, Tyler Herro has come in, and he has hit excellent shots. He hit that one floater in the last game where he threw it 15 feet in the air over LeBron, and it just went in somehow. He hit that crazy fadeaway going towards the sideline. He is not scared to shoot, okay? But you look at his stats, yes, he hit that snarl in the game they won in Game 3. But outside of that moment, he really has been a player that has negatively affected the Heat. Now, do these bad shots and these long rebounds and the transition defense errors that come from that lead to his plus minus being affected? And yes, that's all part of basketball. That's exactly what basketball is all about. Making the small plays so someone else can make the big play. Or making the small play so the ball finds its way back to you and you finally get to make the big play. That's basketball. And when you're minus 48 on the floor against a team like the Lakers, they're going to take advantage of that. So if you look at NBA Twitter, the dumbest Twitter on the planet, I swear to God there's not a smart person besides the people who cover the sport in NBA Twitter. I think it is by far the most asinine group of individuals. It's horrendous to see people chatting in NBA comment sections. LeBron had 28 points. He missed 7 shots and went 12 and 8 rebounds to assists. And people are saying LeBron played bad. The utter stupidity is why Tyler Herro has been gassed up to the levels he's been gassed up to. I think he's an ultra-talented basketball player. But until he starts making a legitimate impact on a nightly basis on both ends of the floor, he is going to be a negative to his team. And now, the Heat don't have any other options. When he was coming in and he was just popping in buckets, when he was filling in for Goran Dragic when he went to the bench, he was great. That's when he was at his peak. That was when he was at his most powerful. But now he has defensive responsibilities for 4 quarters. He's got to play 36 minutes. His bad shots start adding up. And now you're starting to see 8 for 22, 6 for 20 stat lines. And yes, he had a big shot against the Heat or the Lakers one time. That's just what the Herro perspective is. All right, the next team on the list that I want to talk about, the next thing I want to talk about, show's getting a little dragging on. So we're going to get into this. As a Cavs fan, I'm preparing for LeBron to win a title on a team that isn't the Cavs. All right, I had to do it twice with the Heat. I thought I was going to have to do it like 100 times when he went to the Heat. This time around, it's a little different. I was ready and prepared for it because it had happened before. For good or for worse, LeBron left Cleveland. And I think it's going to pay off in the end. I think he's going to get his ring in his third destination. I think his post-NBA career is going to be fantastic because of this move. But, it really does put into perspective that I'm not a Laker fan. And that even LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in my lifetime, he himself has gotten me to a TV the last 2 years in another uniform. And I told myself when he left again, I was just going to enjoy his time. The remaining years, the twilight of his career, however long it may be. We don't even know yet, so that's pretty impressive within itself. I have defended LeBron since the minute he stepped on the floor, and I was 6 years old, and he joined the NBA ranks as the savior of the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise, and he did everything he could those first 7-8 years he was with the Cavaliers, and then he left, and it hurt. And I did not burn my jerseys. I did not do all of that. When your favorite athlete leaves the city you've grown up rooting for, it hurts. And the second time around, it didn't hurt any less. It just hurt a little different. And seeing him win again without those wine and gold uniforms on, it's a little weird. And it wasn't something I was actually prepared for in the end. I was kind of rooting for him, and I still am, but it just does not feel the same. And it doesn't feel as right as it would if he was getting title number 4 as a Cleveland Cavalier. That's what he was born to do. It's where he's supposed to be. It still doesn't look right seeing him in a Lakers uniform. And that preparation mentally has been a challenge. So, yes, LeBron winning a title. I'm going to be extremely happy for him. But it's going to be bittersweet, and it's going to be tough. And I'm going to have a lot more to say about it when it does happen, because it is going to. And that's really going to finalize, and I think it's going to solidify his legacy. Will he be the Finals MVP? I hope so. He's done everything he can. He's been the steady hand that's guided him. He's been the steer on the boat. It's been very much LeBron-centric however many games they played this year. And that's what it's all about. I think the Lakers are better than the Heat. I think the Lakers have a deeper roster than the Heat. And next year, I think the Lakers are going to have to get a lot better because there's going to be some even better challengers possibly. But to close out the show today, we're going to hit a quick conversation. The Titans and the coronavirus. So you don't have to tell me about the Titans and coronavirus. All right. I have Derrick Henry. 1 hour ago, Titans have another positive coronavirus test. Will they play against the Bills? Probably not. Okay. Will there be a forfeiture? Probably not. So when your best player on your fantasy team is Derrick Henry, what are you supposed to do? I don't have anybody else, man. No one's going to trade for him. What am I supposed to do? I'm asking, honestly. I want your answers. Tweet them at me. Do whatever you want. I need answers. What am I supposed to do with Derrick Henry? I'm not cutting him because eventually they're going to play football games again. I'm 2-2 right now. I don't have the margin for error for this. Okay, I'm pleading. I need help, NFL. Let them play at least, the guys who are healthy. But I don't want them to spread it to the rest of the league, because then the Browns, who are finally good, their season's going to get ruined. So, yes, realistically moving forward, I think I don't know what to think. The Titans have 23 players and staff who have tested positive for COVID-19 since September 24th. What? This year, man. It's been crazy. Thanks for coming out and listening today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. We'll get more into topics as the season gets going. I think next week it's pretty much going to be an NFL-centric show from here on out. We've got Buck Off doing all the college football stuff. I'll be bringing that to you guys tomorrow morning. But once again, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you guys on Monday.